What's up guys, welcome back. This is Anime Crossover. You'll be watching What If Naruto Was the Emperor of Elements, in the Avatar Part 1. Now, let's begin. Naruto's perspective. This is the spirit world. It does not align with my expectations. Interestingly, my memory persists, yet it appears to be one-dimensional. All the information feels detached. There is an absence of identity and connections, as though they were never present. I recall being a middle-aged individual when, for reasons that remain unclear, I found myself in this situation. My entire life unfolded before me, yet the emotions I once experienced have faded away. I remember my time in an orphanage, where I would blow bubbles through my nose. From the academy, only subject knowledge and missed classes persist, alongside the anime I viewed and books I read during moments of solitude. The memories from my Chunin years are quite vague, primarily theoretical knowledge from my major, interactions with female peers, followed by professional responsibilities and daily activities. The entire experience transpired in what seemed like mere seconds. It may be for the best. I question my ability to think clearly at this moment if my memories were heavily influenced by emotions. Upon reflection, I perceive a transparent, spherical shape characterized by pulsating white lines within the contours of a body. I no longer identify as human. I resemble an unusual entity from the anime I have viewed. Although my vision remains impeccable, it feels as though I possess the clarity of sight. It is now evident why my thoughts progress with such tranquility, and I do not experience human needs. It is an unusual sensation, yet it does not cause any discomfort. The location I have arrived at bears a striking resemblance to the typical environment. Familiar trees, grass, soil, and a soft breeze stirring the fallen leaves. It does not truly resemble the spirit world or a realm of retribution. Intrusive thoughts of an alternate reality persist, as the colors appear excessively vivid and contrasting in comparison to my recollections. The colors resemble those found in animated productions. I believe it would be beneficial to locate the local residents, if they are present. Selecting a direction without specific intent, I commenced my movement, or more accurately, my gliding, toward the forest. After what seemed like an extended period, I had not encountered anyone. The notion of solitude began to settle in as I detected a rustling sound ahead. A creature resembling a formation of earth, adorned with leaves atop its head, emerged from behind a tree. If I were still human, I would certainly be taken aback, but my emotions were not particularly intense. I was taken aback as the creature began to circle around me, leaping and emitting unusual sounds. Pryu Ryu Ryu, it chirped, persistently leaping and exuding happiness. I gained an understanding of its intentions. It resembled an exchange of ideas conveyed through feelings. This individual sought my participation, exhibiting thoughts that were straightforward and impulsive, reminiscent of a child still in the process of self-discovery. I attempted to convey my inquiries regarding both the world and his personal experiences. It appeared to be effective. At the very least, he ceased his actions, tilted his head, and regarded me with a look of confusion. Uncertainty appeared to linger above him. It is likely that he had not considered these questions or lacked interest in them. After remaining in that position for a minute, he began to run back and forth once more. I experienced a sense of exasperation. I do not believe I would gain any knowledge from this individual. There remains a possibility that not all individuals in this environment share his characteristics. I am progressing in my journey with my new companion, who seems reluctant to part ways at this time. At the very least, it alleviates the sense of solitude. As I ventured further into the forest, the surroundings became increasingly dim and unwelcoming. It was quite unsettling, as though there was a tangible weight pressing down on me. The spirit, previously in good spirits, began to resist and express discontent about my decision to proceed there. I found myself intrigued by what might have been troubling him, yet I chose to proceed independently. I gently pushed my new acquaintance aside and communicated my intention. I am proceeding onward. Upon realizing my decision was final, he began to walk away, glancing back intermittently as if to inquire, "Have you reconsidered?" After exchanging farewells, I proceeded further into the shadowy depths of the forest. A few hundred meters later, I sensed vibrations in the ground, reminiscent of rocks giving way. It soon became evident why the ground was trembling. In a clearing, two creatures were engaged in a fierce battle, reshaping the forest landscape with each movement. One resembled a cluster of tree roots shaped in a human-like form, while the other was a massive figure composed of stone. Even from afar, their strength was palpable. They would overpower me without any awareness. Their intense drive and passion radiated in all directions. It was evident that the world was not solely inhabited by amicable entities. Such a notion would be overly optimistic. I ought to have heeded the advice of the leaf spirit. The focus of the conflict was now returning to my origin. I would need to navigate around them and continue progressing. The situation is becoming increasingly perplexing. I am seeking an individual who can provide comprehensive explanations on various topics. Upon moving a considerable distance from the conflict, I sensed a cry of anguish permeating the atmosphere, laden with fear and despair. The origin was a substantial root that bore resemblance to an Ent from the Lord of the Rings. The outcome appeared to be determined, so it would be prudent for me to leave promptly. During their confrontation, they seemed to overlook my presence. However, I was acutely aware that they had acknowledged me in some capacity. They would pursue me at the earliest opportunity. At that moment, the Ent began to disintegrate into multicolored particles that swiftly dissipated into the atmosphere, although some succeeded in entering the stone giant. At once, the giant increased in height, and the pressure escalated. Excellent. The current situation mirrors my recollections from my human existence. The powerful dominate the vulnerable, albeit in a more tangible manner. I commenced floating with great speed and determination. However, after traveling some distance, I started to sense that I could not maintain the pace. It felt as though a reserve I had not previously experienced was depleting in high-speed mode. I have a finite energy supply, and when it is exhausted, I experience fatigue. As I paused, I observed that my brightness had diminished. Before I had the opportunity to feel fear, I recognized that my energy was gradually being restored. Indeed, after utilizing my energy, I started to perceive an external influence, as if I were drawing in resources from my surroundings to restore my reserves. Upon analyzing that battle, it became evident that those creatures emitted similar energy, albeit with variations. Strange as it may seem, the stone man's energy resonated with earth and stone, whereas the other's was reminiscent of wood, water, and earth. It appears that my old friend may be experiencing some weakness, as I did not perceive anything from him. Alternatively, it is possible that I am not attuned enough to recognize it. The intensity of that battle was palpable, and the weight I experienced in their presence appeared to mirror their energy, dispersed throughout the conflict. I will consider the neutrality of my Kai as an advantage. My Kai reserve is being replenished at an increasing rate. I should remain in a suitable location until I have fully recuperated before proceeding with my journey. Upon exploring the area, I observed a sizable tree. Seeking solace in its origins, I opted to attempt rest. Perhaps that would facilitate a quicker recovery. After a period of time, I remained unable to fall asleep, restless and preoccupied with my thoughts. It was only upon relinquishing my efforts and ceasing movement that my body began to transition into a state of sleep. My final consideration was the desire to remain safe during my initial rest in this world. I awoke with some hesitation, and it was the unusual nudges against my body that ultimately brought me to consciousness. Upon opening my eyes, I was taken aback to find a parody of Sun Wukong before me. Even in his primate form, he exhibited a more human-like appearance than any other life form I had previously encountered. It was of utmost significance that he was able to communicate effectively, not through the conveyance of thoughts via emotions, but in a clear and comprehensible language, albeit reminiscent of a blend of Eastern languages from my previous existence. That is quite intriguing, he remarked after prodding me a few more times. At that moment, I was not particularly focused on his interests. I was pleased to encounter a calm and reasonable representative of the local fauna. I roused myself and started to rise. Throughout the interaction, he maintained a focused gaze upon me, as though he were attempting to discern my innermost being, which induced a degree of apprehension on my part. "Hello, may I ask who you are?" I chose to end our silent exchange and initiate a dialogue. Conveying my thoughts has become increasingly effortless. This mode of communication appears to be inherent for entities such as myself. At that moment, his narrowed eyes beneath thick brows opened wide, and his mouth shaped into an O. Moments later, he leapt back several meters. "You consider yourself rational?" he exclaimed, directing his finger towards me. "You as well?" I resolved not to allow him to surpass me. He composed himself, approached me closely, and began to sniff me. It was indeed unexpected, and I found myself momentarily surprised. Before I had the opportunity to express my objections, he inquired, "Where do you originate? Why is there an absence of bending in your presence? What led to your development of rationality as a lesser spirit?" he inquired, his questions flowing forth. "Please clarify our current situation, your identity, and mine before I respond to your inquiries," I stated firmly before he could pose additional questions. "Understood," he stated. "My name is Wong. I am a baboon spirit. a higher spirit with an impressive age of 730 years, he concluded with pride. Observing his continually twitching tail, it was evident that he was eager to learn about me at that moment, yet he restrained himself. For several hours, I absorbed the extensive information shared by the articulate Wong, and I started to comprehend the environment I had entered. It appears that we are currently situated in the spirit world, a realm that even its residents do not entirely understand. As Wong notes, one may traverse a well-known route yet arrive at an entirely different destination. Two primary categories of spirits exist embodying darkness and chaos, and those representing light and harmony. However, this does not imply that they wield darkness or light. It indicates their developmental journey or the orientation of their kai. All spirits develop greater strength and wisdom as time progresses, regardless of whether they belong to the first or second category. The primary distinction is that light spirits inherently embody peace. They perceive no value in unnecessary violence. They develop greater strength and wisdom through self-awareness and a deeper understanding of their surroundings, while also improving the quality, density, and quantity of their kai. Dark spirits tend to favor chaos and destruction. They can enhance their strength by vanquishing spirits and assimilating their kai. This inevitably impacts their already fragile mental state. Spirits are essentially manifestations of kai. Therefore, when they absorb the kai of another spirit, they also take on its essence, which can lead to further destabilization of their psyche. It is uncommon to encounter a rational dark spirit that does not exhibit immediate aggression. Dark spirits with weak wills often do not resist the temptation to pursue the easier route to power. They have evolved from mere dark spirits into entities that are now corrupted. As he mentioned, identifying the essence of a spirit can prove to be quite challenging in the absence of observable indicators of their nature or the ability to perceive their kai. A wide variety of spirits exists, encompassing both dark and light entities, including water spirits, feline spirits, and even those associated with inanimate objects. The spirit world is primarily inhabited by spirits representing the four elements: fire, water, earth, and air, along with spirits of various animals. In addition to these, there exists a variety of derivative spirits stemming from these five types, including a stone badger spirit or a nature spirit, characterized by a harmonious blend of water and earth kai. This list has the potential to be extensive. Spirits possess the ability to exist indefinitely. However, even the most ancient spirits may ultimately become weary of their existence and merge back into the world's kai. Wong has achieved the status of a higher spirit, demonstrating remarkable advancement at a young age by spirit standards. What is meant by a higher or lesser spirit? I inquired, feeling perplexed, as these terms often surfaced in his narratives. A hierarchy exists among spirits. All spirits originate as lesser entities, with the exception of the great ones, who, as spirits recall, have perpetually existed. My acquaintance Leafy has also been revealed to be a lesser spirit. Their characteristics encompass reasoning abilities comparable to those of a 5 to 7-year-old child, a low density and quantity of kai, and typically a limited capacity to extend their element away from their body. The subsequent level represents the typical spirit. Their kai exhibits a higher density, and their reserves significantly surpass those of lesser spirits. Their reasoning is akin to that of a young adult, and they exhibit significantly improved control over their bending abilities. They actively pursue a deeper understanding of themselves, their environment, and their capabilities. The superior category of spirits consists of the higher spirits. They are quite similar to ordinary humans, often exhibiting greater wisdom in certain areas, and some possess the ability to transform into different creatures. Their kai parameters significantly exceed those of typical spirits, and notably, they possess their own source of kai. This indicates that they do not require a highly kai-saturated environment to restore their reserves. Their self-generated kai is sufficient for them to live and operate like humans. They possess the ability to manipulate their element at will and start to grasp the associated characteristics of their element. For instance, a water spirit may understand not only pure water but all forms of liquid, blood, clouds, and even mud. Ancient spirits represent the embodiment of particular concepts. They likely emerged shortly after the great spirits. They possess greater strength than elevated spirits and frequently exhibit unique characteristics, making it advisable to steer clear of them unless you are certain of their nature. They might not be associated with a particular element or could represent its essence. Wong is acquainted with Tui and La, the spirits of the moon and ocean, who have not been observed on the spirit plane for an extended period, as well as the Mother of Faces. Upon hearing her name, he exhibited a slight pallor. I echoed his words, and instantly, The Avatar cartoon surfaced in my thoughts. I now clearly observe the similarities between the entities present here and those depicted in the animated series. It significantly increased my happiness, as following the narrative allows for participation in these events, potentially leading to a role akin to the Avatar with a harem. Ultimately, my recollection is saturated with numerous series and literature featuring omnipotent protagonists accompanied by a multitude of female characters. I am seeking a method to access the human realm and, crucially, to regain my humanity. While there are certainly benefits to being a spirit, I would prefer to experience life as a human. The most formidable entities are the esteemed spirits Rava and Vatu. As Wong understands, they have consistently engaged solely with one another. One could choose to allow them to exist in tranquility, maintaining their equilibrium for centuries. He stated that with the onset of the Avatar era, the existence of spirits underwent a transformation. The equilibrium upheld by the efforts of the prominent forces is steadily deteriorating. During her time on the spirit plane, Rava unconsciously facilitated the emergence of light spirits, while Vatu extracted excess dark Kai from the dark spirits. Currently, there is a greater prevalence of dark spirits compared to light ones, and their behavior has become significantly more aggressive. Historically, spirits frequently engaged in conflicts with humans. However, the current focus is on managing the dark spirits. In the material realm, the majority of individuals have largely forgotten about spirits. Human existence is brief, as is their recollection. However, numerous spirits that adapted to the human realm transformed into various animals, with some maintaining their power, such as dragons and spirits of locations that actively support their existence. Upon concluding his narrative, Wong proceeded to inquire about various aspects of my background. Throughout his life, he had never encountered a completely neutral spirit possessing even a slight source of Kai, particularly one with such a minimal amount and low density. In his view, it is entirely unfeasible for a lesser spirit to exhibit rationality. I chose not to disclose my origins to him at this time, as I believe it is not necessary for him to know yet. Having only recently met him, he appears to be quite amicable. Despite not receiving clear answers from me, he gestured with his hand while appearing quite satisfied. In his view, nearly all the rational individuals he is acquainted with lack excitement. They are consistently engaged in activities such as resting, meditating, or attending to their personal matters, requesting that he refrain from interrupting them. He chooses not to engage with those who could accompany him, citing their numerous issues as a reason for his decision. He is comprehensible by spiritual standards. He is quite young and struggles to remain still. "May I ask your name?" he inquired, slightly adjusting his posture as he realized he had not yet learned my name. I took a moment to reflect, as numerous names surfaced in my thoughts, yet I sensed deep down that the appropriate time for a name had not yet arrived. "It's quite all right. I only discovered my name after ascending to a higher state of being, and it revealed itself to me in due time. Perhaps you are not yet prepared for that realization," Wong remarked, observing my struggle. "For the time being, I will refer to you as a friend, if that is agreeable. Do you have any objections to being my friend?" he inquired with enthusiasm. I concurred with him, once more appreciating his delight in straightforward communication. He likely experienced loneliness without a companion, as he expressed joy over matters that appeared mundane to me. I appreciated his presence. It provided a sense of security, shielding me from any lurking threats. Upon realizing that I would remain with him for the time being, his expression brightened with joy. For a spirit, he possessed remarkably expressive features. "Very well, let us proceed. I will demonstrate the strength of my earthbending abilities," he stated confidently, standing tall. Recently, dark water spirits have taken residence near a local pond, launching attacks on the light spirits under his guardianship. In order to assist those in need, they engage in efforts to reclaim territories from the dark spirits that persistently pose a threat to the peaceful inhabitants. Not everyone possesses the ability to retaliate. Some lack offensive capabilities altogether. As we traversed a familiar path, we arrived at a small pond where the dark water spirits had gathered. They resembled large terrestrial piranhas, with an entire group guided by a central figure and 3 subordinate entities. "Please remain behind me." Typically, average spirits possess knowledge of various tricks, he stated, his demeanor becoming serious. His entire demeanor exhibited a refined elegance, and his movements became lively and energetic. I positioned myself behind him as we moved forward. As the distance decreased, the spirits began to snarl and advance closer. The leader recognized that the monkey presented a potential threat to their safety. As we approached them, I started to sense their emotions. Anticipation and a profound sense of desire. I repeatedly heard the phrase, food, stronger, mine, echoing in my thoughts from the lesser spirits. The average spirit maintained silence, strategizing for his impending assault. The tension escalated until, in a coordinated surge, the dark spirits advanced towards us. Wong confidently extended his wooden staff to nearly 5 meters and, with a single strike, vanquished the lesser spirits. Observing the rapid response, the average spirit paused momentarily but proceeded with the assault. The spirit was merely a meter away when Wong ensnared his body with his elongated tail and decisively shattered him into vibrant particles of Kai. Before I could appreciate the rapid defeat and the strength of my new companion, the majority of the Kai from the vanquished spirit swirled around Wong and was drawn into my body. As the final particle entered, I experienced an overwhelming surge of pain, akin to the sensation of a nerve in a tooth being stimulated, yet the origin of this discomfort was my entire essence. What? How is this possible? I heard Wong inquire before I lost consciousness. As consciousness gradually returned, I sensed a subtle tension in my body. However, it was not unpleasant, rather akin to the gratifying soreness experienced after an effective workout, when one's muscles feel both lighter and stronger. As I opened my eyes, or what functioned as them, I noticed Wong observing me with a look of concern. I recalled the residual energy from the dark spirit entering my body. I commenced an evaluation of my condition. No signs of thirst or yielding to dark influences, yet numerous other transformations are evident. Initially, several of the lines encircling my body had taken on a blue hue. Secondly, there has been a significant increase in both the density and quantity of my Kai. My physique had developed into a more humanoid form, featuring a head, arms, and legs that were taking shape. There is a possibility that I will regain my human form as I progress in my levels. That is quite reassuring. Upon further introspection, I recognized my source of Kai, or sources. Adjacent to the transparent sphere, a blue Kai orb floated, resembling water. This is the significant matter at hand. I trust that introducing a new element will not lead to complications. The sound of Wong's light cough interrupted my train of thought. I ceased my self-examination and observed him shifting nervously, anticipating my response. I am well, Wong. I continue to maintain a neutral stance, I reassured the concerned baboon. It appears I may have overreacted, he remarked with a relieved smile. I perceive a unique affinity for waterbending within you. Your presence is indeed exceptional, even in this environment known for its peculiar occurrences. I am currently in the process of determining the best course of action. As you are aware, I have only recently attained self-awareness, I remarked with a slight smile. Please assist me in comprehending the situation that occurred. He understands that, even in the spirit realm, there are laws maintained by the world itself. Wong has engaged in discussions with coherent dark spirits, who assert that only approximately 25% of a vanquished spirit's Kai can be extracted, with an even smaller fraction being absorbed. The remainder is utilized by the global community. The world's actions frequently lack purpose or feeling, providing a safer environment for darker influences. Numerous high-ranking dark spirits attempt to circumvent this, yet none have achieved success. I must request that you maintain the confidentiality of this matter, I stated with gravity. Certainly. I do not betray friends, he stated, striking a confident pose. I am eager to evaluate the benefits of this upgrade, I remarked, rising and making my way toward the water. I am still not fully informed. I would appreciate your evaluation. The nearer I approached the water, the more pronounced the pull of the water Kai became. I desired to immerse myself and swim without any distractions. The upgrade has resulted in undesirable side effects. Currently, it presents as a mild urge that can be easily managed. However, it remains a point of concern. Asking Wong uncovered more disconcerting realities. Our inherent nature impacts us more significantly than I previously believed. Lower and mid-level spirits typically remain close to the sources of their respective elements for a sense of comfort. They will depart only if compelled to do so. Even Wong, a distinguished spirit, acknowledges that he still favors forests adjacent to trees due to ingrained habits. Existence shapes consciousness. Is applicable to spirits. Until you reach an elite level, your instincts are primarily influenced by your physical capabilities rather than your cognitive processes. This is not acceptable. I have only just begun, yet the world is already shaping me according to its standards. At the water's edge, Wong provided direction. Proximity to the source of your element enhances your ability to exert control over it. I entered the water. In accordance with his guidance, I endeavored to engage with the water directly. I immediately remembered the techniques of the dark spirit. Though only 2, they represent a solid foundation. The initial experience involved a film of water enveloping my body, evenly distributing the impact, akin to a protective layer of armor. The second action involved a strategic maneuver, instructing the armor to repel attackers. Even these measures were insufficient to protect the mid-level spirit from the raw power of a high-level counterpart. I have the ability to manipulate water within a 2-meter radius using my thoughts. With increased Kai, I will manage it from greater distances and in larger volumes. At this moment, focus on channeling water Kai into your body, Wong directed. It enhances strength, agility, defense, and reaction speed. The rate of improvement escalates with consistent practice, thereby passively enhancing your Kai conductivity. Could you please share where you acquired this knowledge? I inquired with interest. Wong did not present himself as particularly analytical. He appeared to embody a more forceful approach. During moments of boredom, I find myself visiting Wan Shi Tong. He enjoys delivering lectures, although I often find myself drifting off, he remarked with a lighthearted laugh. I would awaken during the flight from his library, listening to him express his discontent regarding ungrateful spirits. His library is located here. There may also be insights related to spiritual understanding. I will make a visit, however, my priority is to refine my skills and enhance my strength first. As I infused my body with water Kai, I experienced an immediate transformation, feeling stronger, as though time had decelerated. This state rapidly depletes energy. Without my source, the duration would be limited to 30 seconds, however, I am now able to maintain it for several minutes. The utilization of the neutral source for enhancement proved to be highly effective, resulting in a doubling of my strength. The neutral source is more effective for enhancing power. I proceeded to conduct further experiments with enthusiasm. Learning bending is an opportunity that many would find appealing. Using my new hands, I made contact with a tree, resulting in merely a minor scratch. Insufficient. Enhancing my body with hydration, the subsequent strike resulted in a noticeable impact. Improved. The tree trembled forcefully, fracturing at the point of impact due to the application of neutral Kai. In high winds, it would collapse immediately. Insufficient at this time. In combat, adversaries would approach too closely. I required fundamental solutions. I considered the idea of crafting a water sword and shield, envisioning myself as a water knight. The process of condensing water into a sword required 15 minutes, which is considered excessive. However, the second attempt was completed in 2 minutes. It appeared that the water retained the shape, or I had successfully mastered the process. Upon testing it on an additional tree, a minor incision was observed. Channeling water pressure along the blade resulted in a precise cut. Subsequently, I utilized stone, exerting additional force, resulting in it splitting into 2 pieces. The sword enhanced my sense of confidence. At this point, it was essential to ensure that its creation became instinctive, requiring only a matter of seconds. The process of creating the shield was expedited, resembling condensed water armor. I requested Wong to conduct the test, creating the sword and shield, an arduous task. While water Kai supports my abilities, neutral Kai improves my physical strength significantly. Following a concise sparring session, Wong appeared contemplative. You are capable of overcoming a mid-level spirit with relative ease. The shield is capable of withstanding multiple impacts, he stated after a period of careful consideration. It is quite impressive to defeat an opponent who is a full rank stronger at your level. Maintain humility. He added with a serious tone, many spirits remain more powerful than you. I will not, I responded, maintaining a serious demeanor. After a long day of practice, we made our way back to Wong's tree home. I dedicated the day to honing new skills, yet I have not yet learned how to absorb Kai from vanquished spirits. Tomorrow, I will request Wong to accompany me to locations where dark spirits gather. I would also begin training against other spirits, with Wong providing support, during the morning, or what could be considered morning in this environment of constant light or darkness. I observed a clay pot. The initial indication of cognitive decline is a diminished focus on detail. Previously, I would have promptly located a container for water. Engaging in combat without my primary tool as a waterbender is highly inadvisable. Not every conflict occurs in proximity to water sources, and the ability to extract water from organisms or the atmosphere remains an aspiration for the future. I expressed my gratitude to Wong for the pot and inquired, "Where did you acquire it?" "The spirits under my protection have succeeded. Several individuals collaborated to develop it," he stated. "Please remain calm. A significant number have faced attacks from other spirits and remain cautious of unfamiliar individuals. leading them to conceal themselves. Acknowledge. I would appreciate it if you could convey my gratitude to them. Wong was well acquainted with the locations where the dark spirit congregated, so we proceeded accordingly. The initial location was in proximity to where I experienced my first battle. Subsequently, we discovered a cave inhabited by several low-level earthbending spirits, smaller counterparts of the giant I had previously encountered. Please exercise caution, Wong advised. Maintain vigilance until you are certain. With careful preparation, I created water armor, a sword, and a shield, while circulating neutral Kai. Their approach involved charging the enemies while simultaneously collecting stones for defensive purposes. Earthbending spirits prioritize defense, which simplifies my responsibilities. I executed a swift maneuver, spinning my sword to strike the first spirit with precision. The resistance surpassed that of typical stone. They imbue stones with their Kai. I penetrated its core with precision. As it dissolved into Kai, many attempted to penetrate my being, yet I felt overwhelmed, and it dissipated. I will address that at a later time. Two spirits persisted. Recognizing the ineffectiveness of their defense, they proceeded to launch an attack. The shield effectively absorbed the impacts. In a matter of seconds, my sword dispatched them efficiently. I made a concerted effort to comprehend the Kai absorption process. The energy approached, I felt complete, and it dispersed into the environment. No additional improvements required. However, I would ensure to pursue spirits of various elements. We dedicated the day to confronting various spirits. By the conclusion of the day, the outcomes were evident. I was unable to absorb additional Kai. My body could not accommodate another source. I will take this into account as I progress to mid-level. It is possible that higher ranks permit the absorption of additional elements. Absorption was effective solely with waterbending spirits, including even the rare derivatives. Absorbing low-level waterbending spirits resulted in mild discomfort, whereas mid-level spirits induced significant pain, impairing combat effectiveness. Wong provided assistance when I was nearly attacked by another mid-level spirit. Absorption is effective solely when the defeated spirit is within a 2-meter range. Following each absorption, my water source increased in density and size, enhancing the quality of Kai. My awareness of water significantly increased. The development and upkeep of techniques have become seamless. However, I was unable to attain mid-level. I was exceedingly close. As I became more powerful, the world appeared to impose greater limitations on me. As someone who was not born here, I may be perceived as a potential threat. There is an additional incentive to explore Wan Shi Tong's library. After engaging with waterbending spirits, I found myself inclined to remain and enjoy the water. The elevated water conditions presented an enticing opportunity. I shook my head and dismissed the thought. Another issue. I found myself increasingly resembling a subordinate entity. As I made my way back to Wong's, I contemplated the possibility of a brief visit. I recognized the necessity of addressing my challenges, as remaining stagnant would not provide a solution. While under Wong's guidance, I was able to grow without risk, yet I was concerned about losing my sense of self, even for a brief period. It is uncertain what my transformation would entail as a high-level spirit. Without decisive measures, I may remain at a subordinate level. This morning's enthusiasm regarding my distinctiveness swiftly transformed into obstacles. However, in the absence of challenges, life would lack intrigue. Surmounting challenges enhances our resilience. Over the next 2 days, I concentrated on seeking out new dark water spirits in an effort to elevate my rank. After overcoming numerous mid-level spirits, I encountered a significant obstacle in my progress. Regardless of the amount of Kai I absorbed from the kills, I was unable to achieve a breakthrough. I contemplated requesting Wong to eliminate a high-level dark spirit on my behalf, but locating one would prove to be a significant challenge. Additionally, I would need to remain near him throughout the fight, which could divert his attention. From the baboon's narratives, it became evident that high-level spirits were often unpredictable and could resort to drastic measures when threatened. I was reluctant to put Wong in a precarious situation, particularly given the substantial assistance he had provided me without any expectation of reciprocation. Throughout the conflicts, I refined my expertise in waterbending to a degree that surpasses that of most mid-level spirits. The trio of techniques I favored became instinctual, and I also devised a new method: cutting armor. It generates dynamic streams of water that serve to both safeguard and inflict damage upon contact. It can be quite demanding to utilize. I find that I must concentrate fully on it. However, its power remains unparalleled. In a confrontation with 2 formidable mid-level spirits, it dispatched them in a mere 2 seconds. The most significant issue was the gradual and subtle transformation in my mindset. I continued to restrain unwise impulses, and the process of thinking became increasingly challenging. Even Wong observed the situation, yet he was unsure of how to provide assistance. He recommended that I consult the Spirit of Knowledge, an entity known for its abundance of answers and its unwavering assistance to peaceful spirits. I chose to be efficient and bid farewell to Wong, who appeared somewhat melancholic. The timing of our next meeting remains uncertain. I expressed my gratitude for his assistance and proceeded to fill a vessel with water as he sketched rough maps and symbols in the dirt to direct me to Wan Shi Tong. The journey is expected to take approximately 1 week. He proposed to accompany me, however, he had individuals relying on him who would be at risk without his presence. I promised him I would be careful and stay away from strong drinks. I could handle mid-level or lower ones well. I left for the library after a hard handshake. It's one thing to know a place is special. It's another to actually witness it. I met more than 100 spirits on the journey, and I stopped counting after that. There seemed to be spirits for everything. I had to go around several places to stay away from bad spirits that were quite powerful. It was very important for me to stay focused on what I was thinking and doing. One wrong move from my lower spirit nature could kill me. I had only just come to life, and I didn't want to die. Finally, after 8 days, I got to the library. It was beautiful, but just the tower was visible because it was in the middle of a desert. I thought of enormous owls and how much they like to bury libraries in sand as I got closer. There were rows and rows of volumes inside that appeared to go on forever. This was where the Spirit of Knowledge lived. I needed to find him immediately if I wanted to fix my situation. Time was not on my side. I was going to say his name when my voice became stuck in my throat. Wan Shi Tong was in front of me before I could say anything. A huge owl with eyes that didn't look angry, but his gaze made me feel like he had cut me open and was ready to study me more. I couldn't move till he was done looking at me. It's been a while since people from outside our world came here, Wan Shi Tong finally stated. Huh? I stiffened in fear, but when nothing happened and he stayed calm, I calmed down. Hello, Keeper of Knowledge Wan Shi Tong. Wong, my friend, told me to ask for your help, I said. Oh, that annoying boy Wong, he added with a smile. Enough with the formalities. I've met spirits like you before. You all have the same curse, or gift, depending on how you look at it. Come with me. Wan Shi Tong told me what was going on as I followed him. From time to time, souls from other realms would show themselves here. He had known 6 of them, but only met 3 of them in person. The other 2 were violent and assaulted anyone, and they died fast. He noticed that our gift was taking in leftover Kai from ghosts and using it in a safe way. We also got along well with the absorbed element, learning it far faster than native spirits. If we kept growing, we could get more elements, at least in principle. But our misfortune was that we couldn't fit in with this world. Our beginnings made it difficult for us to climb above a lesser spirit unless we became part of the world itself. But there was a slight chance. It needed a second birth, which could only happen in a more material environment, like the human world. While in a human mother's womb, a process of energetic binding or initialization would occur, making me part of the world. He had so much confirmed information since he has helped countless spirits like mine. Why do you help us so much? I inquired, confused. Thanks, but I'm curious. It's simple, he said, looking at me with his piercing eyes. As an ancient spirit, I can see a lot of things that are hidden in you, even things you don't know about yourself. And if you were a threat, the world would have gotten rid of you. Think about it. Why did those 2 aggressive outsiders show up near a high-level dark spirit's lair and wake him up? Too many coincidences, don't you think? He flapped his wings and replied, I hope you're smart enough to put it all together. The world doesn't have a mind like we do, but it's still the law here. Don't worry, if it wanted you gone, you wouldn't be talking to me now. Another world means new knowledge, Wan Shi Tong exclaimed with excitement. You're an investment in the future. I hope you'll come to the human world soon with books about your world. It's not hard, and you'll do what I ask, won't you? He said, peering at me. I could only nod hesitantly. Good, he responded, happy. Please ask your questions. I inquired, what happened to the other 3? Did they make it? Because I wanted to know how likely I was to win. First, Jesus talked about how to send souls to the physical world. Getting ready was important. I had to make my Kai source stronger and direct my mind into one of my sources, which was the most important stage. My Kai would run out rapidly in the human realm. Therefore, it was important to keep losses to a minimum. Then Wan Shi Tong would open a door to the other plane and send my body to find a good host. This is where the true risk started. I required an embryo that matched my Kai and wasn't already occupied by another soul in order to be reborn. Stealing a body with a soul wouldn't be allowed in the world. As I searched, my Kai would run out, and when it did, I would go. My luck would be put to the test, especially considering there weren't many waterbenders born and my Kai needed a possible waterbender. Because the Fire Nation was invading the Southern Water Tribe, these births were unusual and only happened in the Northern Water Tribe. Even then, kids weren't always in good health. If my soul was already tied to my body, diseases could kill me during birth. It would have been easier if I were a spirit of earth or fire, as most people have those elements. But I couldn't complain because I hadn't absorbed a rare spirit with a non-primary element. Then I'd be locked as a lower spirit forever. There weren't many mixed element people. They were almost always exceptions. Ancient spirits thought that humans were still youngsters learning how to bend, thus they thought there will be more non-traditional benders in the future. What about the three who got to the human world? The first one, a fire spirit, found a body but died of sickness in the first week. It was a time when people were growing, but diseases killed a lot of people and there were no healers among earth benders, fire benders, or air benders. The second one never got a chance. He looked for a host for too long and then disappeared. The third one, which is more recent, came to be known as Qin the Great or Qin the Conqueror. Wan Shi Tong remarked, "Yes, he did great things, but don't be like him. He knew he was the strongest earthbender when he was young, and being a spirit gave him advantages. But his arrogance made him stop growing, and he faced a challenge he couldn't win. Qin lived in a time when the Earth Kingdom was broken up, with a weak ruler and wars going on all the time. Qin took over, brought the kingdom together, and built a strong base that the Fire Nation still couldn't break. His last fight was against Kyoshi's Peninsula, when he didn't listen to the Avatar's warnings and died. The ghost halted in a room with a table and some scrolls on it. These scrolls teach you how to strengthen your Kai and send your mind back to its source. When you finish them, call me. For now, I have other things to do," he added, pointing to the scrolls with his wing. "Can I ask for more information?" I promptly asked. He said with confidence, "All the knowledge from both countries is here. Say what you want." "Then I want to know about chakras and how to open them," I responded with excitement. I had always been curious about the untapped potential of mastering chakras after seeing the show, and I hoped these scrolls might show me something valuable. "Good choice," Wan Shi Tong said. "I'll send my assistant with the books. I'm sorry, but you can't stay any longer. Finish reading and practicing, and then we'll start your trip." I started reading the scrolls as soon as he departed. They were quite detailed. It felt easy to strengthen my Kai source, but it was hard to send my mind between the two sources. I'd have to pull them closer together and keep an eye on both of them. If you lose control while looking for a host, you can lose a source. I spent hours practicing these talents. I just stopped when I felt a soft push. I saw a little fox spirit with books in her jaws when I looked down. I thanked the Spirit of Knowledge's helper and started reading. The books included a lot of important material, but after 8 sleepless days and a lot of stress, I was too tired to read them. It was excellent that I had learned how to strengthen my Kai sources today. In 2 days, I would have memorized the chakra books and learned how to send my mind. For now, sleep was important. It took me approximately 2 days to learn how to bend the right way, just like I thought it would. I even finished memorizing the Kai books sooner than that. I was able to walk through the library itself. After all, doing the same thing over and over again sometimes made my head hurt. Doing things on a whim, like constructing origami out of parchment, was also a major distraction. It's hard to be a low-level spirit with a clear mind. I started to feel sorry for the guys who had the same troubles as me. I was able to regulate what I did, though. He probably would have converted me into a figure if I had folded some origami out of valuable parchment that belonged to a spirit that was obsessed with information. I never went to the same area twice while I was in the library. I kept finding new areas even after walking a long way. My hands wanted to grab more books, make some tea, and explore millions of new worlds. Books have always been like a full life to me, even before I was born. I couldn't start another book right away after finishing a fantastic one because the taste was still fresh in my mouth. I wanted to pick at least a few books from the history area. The cartoon didn't fully represent how life was over a long time. We know that there were a lot of avatars, but only a few of them were shown. I had to work very hard not to give in, even racing through that part just in case. But I promised myself that when the time and chance arrived, I would stay here and read a lot. Honestly, strolling through the library was almost as stressful as practicing how to bend. It's like being a youngster in a mall with your parents, strolling by store windows full of cool toys. I chose to return to my room the same way I came after my first walk. It seemed easy enough. I had been walking in a straight path the whole time. But as I strolled by names for completely unrelated sections, I started to get scared. It looked like Wan Shi Tong could change space. This distance couldn't be normal, unless it was just a weird thing that happened in ancient spirits' homes. When your energy has been in your home for thousands of years, you don't simply control space. You also influence the passage of time. I was already in a hurry, so I ran and started picking random paths, trying to reach the room. I saw a red tail around the corner after I used up half of my energy reserve to speed up. There was no end to my happiness. Fox Spirit, please help me find the way back to the room with the scrolls, I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. It was embarrassing to lose my cool merely because I didn't know where I was. I believed I saw the spirit glance at me with disgust. Well, the most important thing was that she waved her tail and guided me back. I could see the door to the room I required right away after going through a few sections. It was more like a maze than anything else here. The fox spirit looked at me, sighed sadly, and told me how to utilize the library before she left, as if I were getting in the way of her essential work. How essential could they be? But the information turned out to be helpful. I just had to think about what I needed, and the library would narrow the space, taking me right to where I needed to be. Now I understood why I kept winding up at the history sections. I genuinely wanted to read them without even realizing it. I thanked the spirit for her support and then went back to practicing bending. Stop torturing yourself. Do it or don't, a voice shouted behind me, making me jump. I wanted to yell, you could have shown up less suddenly. Yet even as a ghost, my instinct to protect myself was strong. Okay, I needed to calm down. I'd been pacing the room and torturing myself with dark thoughts for the last few hours. Who wants to leave their life to chance, anyway? It looks like no one is in this room. I was simply plain afraid after I had learned how to bend things to what I thought was a good level. I'm not a coward, but I'm scared, right? It's always hard to step outside of your comfort zone, especially when you have a lot of difficulties and just sit there thinking, oh well, it'll all work out. But it doesn't work that way. We've done this before. Things keep getting worse, and by the time your brain gets its act together, you're shocked to find that it's cleaned up because there's nowhere else to fall. Okay, I said to myself, stop feeling sorry for myself. It's time to start over. I'll attempt to be even better in this life because of what I've been through in the past. If I live, that is. It's wonderful to be funny. Yes, I'm ready, I answered firmly to Wan Shi Tong. Good. Send your mind to the source, he said. I did what he instructed and started to get stronger. I had done everything I had been doing for the past 2 days, and I was waiting for something amazing to happen when I left. I thought to myself, naive low-level spirit, everyone is out to get me. He merely opened a hole in the air and booted me through it. And don't come back without new books, he yelled after me as I sailed through. Or I'll gut your spirit for knowledge myself, he said in a scary voice. I hoped he was kidding. My foot is a peaceful spirit. That's when I started to feel the ache getting worse. It isn't fun to have to burn your kai. Fortunately, the soul itself looks for the vessel you need. My major job was to make myself stronger. I was almost begging people to have more sex and for waterbenders to make me a vessel because I had less than 20% of my kai remaining. I felt like I had less than 10% of my kai left when the agony got so bad that I started to pass out. But I did my best to hang on. I was so tired that I almost passed out. That's when I remembered that there was also the swamp waterbending tribe in the Avatar universe. I was ready to end up with them as long as I lived. I'm getting used to passing out. I must still be alive if I'm thinking. I started to sense my body and moved my hands and feet. Yes, I had a body, and I could feel it more clearly. It wasn't at all like a spirit's body. I also felt like I was floating in some kind of liquid. This worked out. It felt a lot like being a baby. It felt great to feel like a person again. We don't value what we have. Of course, I could have died back then and now I'm a Jedi who got shot on Geonosis and is getting better in a Bacta tank. Well, it all makes sense now. My mind drifted, but it was worth looking into. Let's move these small hands. Yeah, the answer wasn't strong enough. I think I even touched the umbilical cord with my hands against a soft wall. My mind calmed down over time, and I started to think more clearly. I don't know much about embryos, but it seemed like I didn't have much time left. My body was too well formed. Soon, I'd have to deal with the brutal reality of life. But the human world looked like heaven after the spirit world, where you may become breakfast for a passing spirit. I started to feel sleepy, and without trying to fight it, I fell asleep. When I woke up again, I resolved to do something useful. Go over the memories of the cartoon I had just seen. It wouldn't hurt to refresh my recollection, especially since everything I've seen so far suggests that the canon here, although not comprehensive, doesn't contain any big deviations. I worked on this for a week and got so into it that I even watched the Korra series. That's when I learned I had been thinking even before I was born. That was the first good thing about being a spirit. A baby's brain couldn't possibly think thus clearly. Speaking of that, I had books about Kai that I hadn't read yet in my memory. It was time to start working on this essential knowledge. My own body wasn't too far away, and I meant to take care of it and love it. After another week, I put the knowledge I had learned from the books in order. It was now evident why there were 3 books about Kai. They showed 3 alternative ways to open them, and you choose the one that worked best for you. The Path of the Spirit was the first path that Guru Pathik taught Avatar Aang. It opens up spiritual powers in you, even though that seems like a cliché. As a human, you get the powers that spirits have in their world. You can easily link with the spirit world, and you can send your spirit forth to explore and interact with other spirits while you are still in the human world. It improves the purity and flow of your Kai, which will help you comprehend your bending skill in a whole new way. Even if you were a bad bender, you could become an expert in your field in a year. And the best part is that you could try to become a bender even if you're not one. The book makes it evident that most people are benders. They just don't know it yet. As you open your Kai centers, each one seeks to go beyond the limits of your talent. Some people might be able to bend their bodies after the first Kai center, while others might not be able to do so until the 7th. It all depends on the wall that keeps you from waking up. For some, it's a weak cardboard wall that the first Kai center knocks down without warning. The book even calls these persons late bloomers, because they became benders on their own as they became older. Some people have a wall made of the strongest steel that they have to work up to the 7th Kai center. When you open your Kai centers, you lose some of your senses because it's like giving birth to a new spirit, and they start their journey with a blank slate. You don't lose your feelings. You just learn them again as you go through life. The Avatar's major power is to enter the Avatar state, hence this path is appropriate for them. The second book talks about the path of the mind. As I got more into it, I believed I had found a treasure, but let me tell right away that the book is dangerous, or rather, the powers it gives you are. You can control your mind and the minds of others with each new Kai center. At first, it's very normal. Your mind works faster, you insulate it from outside influences, and your intuition gets stronger. You may feel which behaviors help you and which don't. Can you read people's feelings? Simple. It gets more intense. Telepathy, which lets people send thoughts over thousands of kilometers. The last Kai center gives you power over others' minds, which is a straight quote from the book. You can read people's minds and find out their hidden fears, hopes, and dreams. It still sounds good, doesn't it? You can even change someone's opinion, make your perfect wife, pals, or whatever else you want. After activating the 7th Kai center, the author of the book doesn't look like a guru anymore. The book has a short biography of his life, but it doesn't say his name. As a student of a guru who had mastered the path of the spirit, he also wished to open his Kai centers. But he wasn't happy with the skills he had, so he decided to try something new. What if he addressed the Kai centers differently? The experiment worked, and he opened the first Earth Kai center, which granted him completely new powers. He opened the other Kai centers without thinking about what might happen because he was so happy with his achievement. You lose a particular sense when you open each Kai center. Every guru is more than simply a person. They are the smartest people who have not lost themselves. The path of the mind can do things that make up for the loss of senses. The author intentionally provoked emotions in others to exploit them, indicating that he derived no insights from activating the Kai centers. He became heartless since he was the smartest person around and knew what everyone was thinking. He couldn't get real feelings from the people around him, so he just made them the way he wanted them to be. The author killed himself in the end, deleting all of his documents except for this book, which just talks about his skills and his story. It doesn't give any directions on how to open the Kai centers in this manner. The last book talks about the path of the body. I called this method, Superman on a budget. Each new Kai center makes you feel like a cultivator who has been struck by lightning, purified in a volcano, and so on. The first Earth Kai Center gives your body a full boost, making it stronger, more flexible, more resistant to fatigue, and faster to react. The second Water Kai Center strengthens your immune system, making you immune to poisons and infections. The third Fire Kai Center makes all of your senses better, giving you flawless vision, sharp hearing, and a strong sense of smell. The fourth Air Kai Center gives you extraordinary intuition, which is like a tiny precognitive skill. The fifth Sound Kai Center lets you control every element of your body, even the smallest ones, such as hormone production, blood flow, bones, muscles, and more. The sixth Kai Center cleanses your body and your ancestors' bodies of all the poisons that have built up over the years, bringing forth only the best attributes that are concealed in your body. The last seventh Kai Center provides extraordinary rejuvenation and physical immortality. Regeneration enables you to heal from any injury as long as your brain is intact. I assume that having my head cut off would not be a problem. That is only for regular people. As a spirit, my intellect is secondary. As long as I can rejuvenate my body in time, that will not be an issue. Of course, we will not put this to the test in practice. Physical immortality means that your body never ages. You may still be killed, but you will not expire of old age. This was the most appealing path for me. When Kai centers are opened, emotions are briefly lost but never completely gone. The emphasis is on preparing your body, or rather, subjecting it to self-torture. Perhaps the creator of this work was a fan of Might Guy's youth. I didn't have to ponder which course to take. I already have such abilities, thus the path of the spirit was unnecessary. The path of the mind offered no directions, and I wouldn't have selected it anyhow because it was too dangerous. I wished to lead a more colorful and unpredictable life. That left the path of the body, which I had been reading with drool nearly streaming from my mouth. I wanted to say, wrap up too, please. For the next week, I fantasized about terrifying my foes, having females fawn over me, and... Wait, did my mother's water just break? So, hello, New World. Be kind. You are my first. 82 years have passed since the Air Nomad genocide. The Northern Water Tribe today was a day of celebration in the Northern Water Tribe's capital. People rejoiced and raised toasts in celebration of Arnuk, the revered tribe chief, having a son. Many people were concerned that the kid would not survive since, in the 8th month of pregnancy, Chief Arnuk's wife, June, was struggling to preserve her Kai to nourish the fetus. However, waterbenders from the healing hall had taken turns at her bedside, channeling mild waterbending to keep both mother and infant alive. Given the chief's ravenous thirst for Kai even before birth, rumors grew across the city that his kid would have an incredible aptitude for waterbending. Inside the palace, silence prevailed, and those present communicated only in whispers, moving as discreetly as possible. The long-awaited son of the city's rulers had finally fallen asleep, and no one wanted to disturb him. While the protagonist, already named Naruto, was experiencing his first dreams, June cradled him carefully and spoke with her husband. Heh, I told you it would be a son, my heir, Arnuk boasted, looking triumphantly at his youngster. Hush, you'll wake him, June warned gently. And who was it who spent all 9 months dreaming of a little princess to spoil for the rest of his life? She made fun of. I don't recall that, Arnuk admitted, slightly ashamed. But tell me, what should we call him? With such an unusual appearance, he'll undoubtedly attract female attention, he said, his voice tinged with envy. June remained motionless for a few moments, observing her son as if looking for an explanation in his features. With a tuft of white hair and fluffy eyelashes, he resembled a little angel, and she couldn't help but kiss him. She admired his violet eyes, which appeared to radiate an ethereal radiance. Let's name him Naruto, she responded after a moment of reflection. Ah, I'm already falling asleep, she said, ending with a yawn. Of course, rest, my dear, Arnuk murmured, concerned in his tone. This was your most tiring day. I'll ask a couple of individuals to wait near the room in case you require assistance. I'll be back later, even on my son's birthday, duty calls, he added, tucking her into bed and kissing her forehead. I understand your responsibilities, June muttered, her eyes already closed. Just don't drink too much, she said, as Arnuk exited the room. He feigned not to hear and silently proceeded on his walk, telling himself that he couldn't pass up the opportunity to celebrate his son's birth. He'd make amends to his wife with gifts later. The protagonist, the nameless spirit, Wan's friend, or now Naruto. When I first entered the world, I was assaulted by a cacophony of sounds, a deluge of odors, and a complete loss of equilibrium. My hurting mind compared it to riding the most severe roller coaster ever, magnified by 100. I let out a yell as I took my first breath. My lungs burned, my eyes were assaulted by a tangle of hues, and there was incessant background noise. But it was all exhilarating. The essential thing was that I was alive, healthy, and ready to face the world. As soon as anything touched my face, I reflexively opened my mouth and started sucking, shocking even myself. As I fell, I felt someone gently rocking me, and the love and care flowing from the person holding me were beyond words. I felt safer than I had ever been. It was obvious, this was my mother. Our attachment developed effortlessly, and I felt like her child, albeit with the baggage of a previous life. After finishing my meal, and even spitting up, which I proudly considered a sign of outstanding cuisine, I began to fall asleep. After all, I'd gone through so much. The spirit world, a race against time, a war for my mind, and now delivery. I deserved some rest. For the following few months, I felt like a king. Food was delivered to me, someone cleaned up after me, and no one chastised me. Even soiling myself was not an issue. If I could control it, I'd use a potty, but for the time being, it was beyond my powers. So I ignored it, even though it wasn't my fault. I gradually began to see the silhouettes about me and hear sounds more clearly. I also discovered I was constantly hungry. When my mother's milk ran out and I was still hungry, another woman fed me the next day, and so on, even though my mother continued to breastfeed me. I hadn't realized it, but being an infant, despite its restrictions, felt far more comfortable than my spirit form. It was as if a steady pressure had been lifted. I ascribed this to finally feeling like a part of the world. It was similar to being a beta tester with a free trial. Now I had purchased the complete license and could enjoy so much more. Frequently, hard hands would lift me. This horrible individual would hug me, his beard tickling my skin. These were the only masculine hands I could feel, so I believed they belonged to my father. The first few months were spent catching up on sleep from my previous life. Every adult has wished to return to their childhood, when they could slumber without anxiety. Now I chastise myself for not appreciating the tranquil hours. As a ninja, 6 hours of sleep seemed like a luxury. My happiness did not last. One day, I realized I was unaware of my gender. I have nothing against women. In fact, I adore them. But living as a guy for so long seemed strange. My folks observed my sadness and attempted to cheer me up. I spent a week attempting to feel something between my legs before giving up, tired. It wasn't the end of the world, and I'd work it out. And why worry if I'd turn out to be a boy? After a month, I decided to test my Kai, at least slightly. Diving deep within myself, I saw my sources, now more alive, and felt my spirit merge with my physical body with each passing second. Wan Shi Tong's records advised against bending until synchronization was complete. I meant to heed this counsel carefully. Full fusion could take 3 to 5 years, which is a minor price to pay for restoring my ability to bend. You become used to the wonderful things quickly. My senses were still adjusting. I recently got to take in the interior of my room, which was austere but better than I had expected. The space was huge, dominated by blues, with spots of cold walls. That was good. If I were pre-canon, I would have had more time to plan for upcoming events. According to the show, this tribe held its own against the Fire Nation, unlike the Southern tribe, which separated itself during a horrific war, leaving its brethren to fend for themselves. I condemned but understood. In those days, assisting an ally meant weakening your defenses. Leaders prioritized their residents, which was not a bad decision. Every day, I became more aware of my body and even managed to see my parents. My mother was a stunning woman with dark skin and long, black hair. My father appeared slightly older, with long black hair and a beard. I recognized him as a well-known figure. Was it you, Arnuk? Now it made sense. All those trials had resulted in this prize. I was the son of the Water Tribe chief, which was far better than I had expected. It would carry both benefits and significant duties. I was like a president's son. My accomplishments would benefit him, and my failings would be a setback. No matter what. With my future abilities, I would not be a normal citizen. My waterbending would outperform others, propelling me up the ranks. I felt like a donor in a video game, paying for the best gear and privileges to go to the top. Ha 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 ha. The infant on the bed tried to chuckle menacingly and triumphantly, only to get into trouble. When the nanny and mother witnessed his wonderful giggle, they couldn't help but smother him with kisses and hugs, or, as Naruto put it, torture. I am too irresistible. Each activity results in kisses and hugs. I tried to be cool and serious, but that simply made them more amorous. I will not give up easily. Today, I was dressed warmly, and it appeared we were going for a walk. We left the room and reached a lengthy corridor with additional doors and rooms. Was that a house or a palace? Everyone we met had dark skin and different eye hues. Simply put, it's stunning. The city looked lovely in the daylight. The snowy buildings mirrored the light, giving them a surreal appearance. The canals reminded me of Venice. It was significantly more spectacular than what the show depicted. Despite the enormous crowd, there was no congestion. Why walk when you can go by boat through the canals? The architecture was meticulously planned and constructed to ensure everyone's comfort and convenience. As I entered the building, I noticed girls and ladies hurrying through the vast hall. Peeking inside a room, I saw a 16-year-old girl use shimmering water to treat a man's damaged leg. It was a useful talent, and I would have to learn it. The women passing by frequently cast glances in my direction. Several appeared as though they wished to take me from my mother and embrace me. My mother maintained a proud demeanor, as if to convey, "Behold my remarkable son," and feel a sense of admiration. In a room, my mother engaged in conversation with an animated elderly woman before we took our seats on a couch. The woman carefully removed my clothing and applied healing water to my body. It was amusing, yet I faced it with resilience. Observing my efforts, they responded with laughter and encouragement. They did not identify any issues, otherwise, they would not be laughing at my expense. As I exited the building, I noticed a mirror. I guided my mother closer as I examined my reflection with great focus. It is truly remarkable how adorable babies can be. I was uncertain about my gender identity. However, I observed my distinctive appearance. Snow-white hair and amethyst eyes. It was sufficient to foster self-importance or pleasure. The reactions of those around me became clear. Even I found myself wanting to embrace my comfort. Recently, I began crawling, prompting my parents to introduce rugs into the room. My preferred activity involved developing strength by moving around and attentively listening to adult discussions, aiming to comprehend specific words. I had anticipated that this new chapter would include a comprehensive social experience, yet I still needed to acquire proficiency in the language. In the realm of the spirit, it was not a concern. Those scrolls represented more energy than mere words. It is truly remarkable to have the flexibility to sleep at my convenience and for extended periods. In my previous experiences, the sound of an alarm consistently evoked a sense of dread, regardless of how frequently I altered the ringtone. I am curious about the possibility of Yui's birth. Upon reflection, it seems she should. My father appears significantly younger than he does in the show, indicating there remains a possibility. My arrival has already influenced the course of events. In the series, Princess Yui was portrayed as 16 years old, which means that even if we share the same birth year, I have ample time to get ready. If I had been born earlier, it would have been even more advantageous. I might have had the opportunity to travel and explore various chakras. While plans are beneficial, we are aware of their tendency to change. I will respond according to the requirements of the situation. In the upcoming months, my daily routine established a reliable pattern. I dedicated a significant portion of my time to rest, and during my active hours, I engaged in various activities as they arose. I developed a strong desire for knowledge, to the extent that I found myself engaging with even the most unexciting Wikipedia entries. Fortunately, my parents determined it was appropriate to begin instructing me in the fundamentals of language. Frequently, either my mother or the nanny would accompany me, sharing stories or occasionally attempting to instruct me on proper word pronunciation. At this point, I was only able to articulate something unclear. My ability to perform intricate verbal tasks had not yet developed. At this point, I can stand independently and take several steps while utilizing a wall for support. As my birthday drew near, I had acquired knowledge of the alphabet, was able to articulate individual syllables, and had even developed the ability to vocalize when I felt the need to attend to my requirements. My motor skills were advancing consistently. Initially, when attempting to move my left hand, I would inadvertently strike myself with my right hand. At this point, I could utilize the hand I originally intended to employ. Progress was observable. I invite you to extend your congratulations. I am a man, more accurately, a future man, currently in a developmental stage, but my sense of masculinity is poised to evolve significantly. This significant event occurred a month ago when we visited a location that integrated features of a Russian banya and Japanese hot springs. When not in use, the space appeared to be a straightforward pool. Jun maintained a specific stance with a concentrated expression, transforming a portion of the water into hot steam while keeping the remainder at a warm temperature. I have indeed learned my mother's name. As my hearing improved, I frequently heard others refer to her by that name. On that day, I realized she possessed remarkable waterbending abilities. Altering the state of matter involves more than simply adjusting ordinary water. It encompasses a much more intricate process. She carefully undressed me, positioned me on a flat surface, and commenced her examination using the techniques of healing waterbending. I will need to acquire further knowledge regarding the traditions of the Northern Water Tribe. Based on my observations in the city, it appears that young women tend to focus primarily on the fundamentals and healing bending. The narrative indicates that combat bending is prohibited for women. It appears that either mom is concealing her abilities effectively, or as the chief's spouse, she is permitted to exceed fundamental manipulation to align with his standing. The primary focus is this. There was a sizable mirror in the bathhouse, and I was positioned naked in front of it. In the mirror, I observed it. Indeed, it remains small, yet I can already recognize its potential. Throughout the entirety of the upcoming month, a joyful expression remained consistently on my face. I remained indifferent to the ongoing challenges presented by the women of the palace. My mother's gaze was fixed upon me, radiating a profound sense of expectation and trust in my abilities. How could I decline when she gazed at me in that manner? I was unable to do so. "Mother," I said. "Ah, my dear child," Mother responded. Subsequently, they initiated a series of actions that caused me significant discomfort. 15 minutes of distress that, coincidentally, manifested as embraces and other gestures of fondness. My father regarded me with sympathy, offering no intervention regarding his wife. As I demonstrated progress in my language skills, they began providing me with books and assisted me in reading them collaboratively. Indeed, the collection consisted solely of children's literature, nothing more was present. While the Fire Nation may have a well-established paper production for the printing of entertainment books, here, books are regarded as valuable repositories of knowledge and experience. My initial publication was a regional encyclopedia focused on animals. The author also illustrated the animals. Upon reviewing his illustrations, I recognized that I would have invested significantly in such work. The individual possessed remarkable talent. What was his description of predators? The author's approach to predatory animals during their mating season, a time when they exhibit heightened aggression, was remarkably bold. Capable, proficient, skilled. He outlined numerous scenarios. It's more of a guide on what to avoid when interacting with different animals rather than a comprehensive reference. I would like to share some intriguing information regarding the unique creatures found within the local fauna. I will refrain from exploring the complex factors that imply interspecies relations among various animals to produce such chimeras. We can attribute the disruption of harmony to Wan Shi Tong, the spirit of knowledge. Therefore, the addition of a few more transgressions may not be significant. The initial focus is on white hamsters, a hybrid of hamster and cat that produces sounds akin to rat squeaks. Is it not intriguing to consider that one of the ancestors of these remarkable creatures, either the hamster or the cat, may have diverged towards the rat lineage? Turtle seals. Seals that have recognized the practicality of a shell as a valuable asset. Tiger seals are characterized by their unique feline features and distinctive tiger-like stripes adorning their bodies. The primary food source for the Southern Water Tribe consists of these elements. Polar bear dogs represent a unique blend of bear and dog, yet they remain classified as wild animals and are subject to hunting by hunters. The series indicates that Avatar Korra will be the pioneer in domesticating one, demonstrating its utility in her journeys. Nonetheless, these remarkable beings exhibit a loyalty akin to that of a dog. I aspire to locate and establish a friendship with one, and I trust that individuals will come to understand there are alternatives to harming them. Otherwise, the image lacks a positive outlook. The air nomads possess flying bison. The Fire Nation once had dragons, which they hunted to extinction, and the Earth Kingdom is home to fascinating badgermalies. However, the Water Tribe lacks a totem animal. Another intriguing animal is the koala otter. The name conveys its essence perfectly. Children from the Northern Water Tribe enjoy having them as pets due to their low-maintenance nature and comparatively less mischievous behavior than the winged lemurs of the air nomads. Subsequently, records were presented that outlined the history of the Northern Water Tribe. The initial documentation indicates a period following the settlement of the majority of the Water Tribe at the North Pole. The pioneers, through careful observation of the tides, started to grasp the principles of waterbending. It is important to acknowledge that certain individuals had already recognized the necessity of observing nature to harness their chi. However, the initial achievements were realized exclusively at the North Pole. which is the domain of the spirits Tui and La. Individuals were perceptive. They understood who had provided them with the essential support in mastering the element. This marked the commencement of the reverence for the moon and ocean spirits, whose contributions were essential in the formation of the Water Nation. Additional records originate from diverse tribes residing in the North Pole before the establishment of the capital. Individuals in this region have historically organized themselves into tribes, each led by its chief. In any group of individuals, differing opinions are inevitable. Conflicts and confrontations frequently arose among tribes. However, there were also individuals who, through oratory or military action, successfully consolidated the majority of the tribes into a unified state. Concurrently, certain tribes separated, subsequently establishing the Southern Water Tribe. Upon the establishment of the state, the inaugural chief was elected, exercising full authority over the populace. A council of chiefs was established to create a counterbalance, consisting of all former tribal chiefs. As time progressed, the council saw the addition of remarkable warriors and formidable waterbenders, influenced by the ongoing conflicts. Society exhibits a pronounced patriarchal structure, characterized by rigidly defined gender roles, which I believe is an ineffective approach. Observe the series. Female waterbenders from the Southern Water Tribe successfully sank Fire Nation ships alongside their male counterparts, and in some instances, even surpassed them. The series indicates that the most powerful waterbenders were predominantly women. Accounts exist from individuals who observed the unwavering resolve of Southern Water Tribe warriors and benders as they defended their city. Indeed, it was a complete city, nearly comparable in size to the northern capital. As outlined, for Fire Nation warriors to make any progress, they were required to sacrifice nearly 3 times the number of individuals compared to the Water Tribe. This represented a considerable setback for the esteemed Fire Nation, which, despite its successful campaigns across various regions, was facing challenges from what they perceived as less advanced tribes. They allocated ample resources, effectively overwhelming them with a continuous influx of personnel and equipment. The intense raids ceased only recently, following the Fire Nation's belief that no waterbenders remained in the South Pole. At times, vessels would arrive for inspections, such as during the incident involving Katara and Sokka's mother. What is the situation regarding the North Pole? The Northerners successfully endured a succession of Fire Nation assaults, attributed to the severe weather conditions and the strength of their fortified wall. However, other factors must not be disregarded. The North was deficient in the resources required by the Fire Nation, and even if such resources were available, the expense associated with seizing the city was prohibitively high. During that period, the Fire Nation engaged in warfare against multiple nations concurrently. Naval assaults were directed at both the Southern and Northern Water Tribes. Land conflicts occurred with the Earth Kingdom, and certain troops were dispatched to the air temples. The Northerners faced multiple assaults, with the most recent attempted invasion taking place approximately 70 years ago. At that juncture, the Chief and Council recognized that despite their efforts to defend their territory, they had suffered significant losses and lacked the capacity for any substantial counteroffensive. Consequently, they opted to significantly limit their interactions with the outside world, believing that maintaining a low profile would prevent any disturbances. Certainly, the narrative was presented differently, yet upon closer examination, it becomes evident that the individuals ultimately lost the conflict while maintaining their independence, as they had ceased to be advantageous to the Fire Nation. It is indeed a rather unfortunate situation. While there may have been significant justifications for the Fire Nation's expansion, it ultimately appeared to be an unusual concept characterized by the motto, "Eliminate all opposition, emerge as the sole survivor." However, I will refrain from making assumptions until I have a comprehensive understanding of all the nuances involved. As a representative of the Water Tribe, I find myself positioned as an adversary to the Fire Nation. There is a distinction to be made between engaging Fire Nation warriors and benders who are actively involved in military conflict, prepared to face lethal consequences, and ordinary citizens who seek a life of peace. Individuals who commit heinous acts should be removed from society without question. That is not open for discussion. Certainly, I will not pursue them actively, and I will refrain from taking any action without a comprehensive understanding of the circumstances. I am fully committed to addressing and halting such behavior. As a spirit, I was not significantly concerned with the ethical considerations surrounding the termination of other spirits. Overwhelmed by numerous challenges and feeling disoriented by the complexities of the new environment, I found that time slipped away from me. As I collect information about my surroundings, I will strive to adhere to my moral compass, ensuring that I maintain my humanity in all circumstances. I understand that this environment presents unique customs and that wartime is not conducive to those with strong moral principles. However, my understanding is that to be human entails consistently embodying our humanity. I aspire for a world that resembles the one depicted in the cartoon, characterized by a reduction in cruelty. I have taken on enough responsibility. Perhaps I will overlook all of this when I find myself at the pinnacle of success, so it would be prudent to maintain composure. No one has designated me as the authority over the world at this point. As time progressed, the quantity of unread books on my shelf decreased. Fortunately, this was merely a modest library assembled by the leaders to serve their specific requirements. The primary library in the city housed a significantly broader collection of books, manuscripts, and even ancient parchment scrolls. This world evokes a comparison to both the New and Old worlds, where the white-faced individuals resemble the Fire Nation, a society characterized by a structured military, industrial strength, and a continuous flow of innovations. At the onset of the war, the Water and Earth nations continued to rely on basic sailboats, whereas the Fire Nation had advanced to a formidable fleet of high-quality steel ships powered by coal. The forms of government exhibit notable alignment. The Water tribes maintain their unity as distinct tribes with their currency, whereas the Fire Nation operates as an absolute monarchy characterized by a more intricate and developed state structure. The historical is also consistent in certain aspects. Historically, the Fire Sages governed the islands independently, reminiscent of a prevailing religious authority in medieval Europe. At the North Pole, there is a reverence for spirits. I have recently celebrated my first anniversary. Although there were no cake or candles, I received several gifts from my parents and the individuals who essentially contribute to the functioning of my household, or rather, the palace. I am still adjusting to that. I received new clothing, as my previous garments had become too small, several toys crafted from animal bones, and a complete notebook, a remarkably valuable gift, exceedingly rare at the North Pole. My father presented it to me, demonstrating his exceptional leadership qualities. He promptly recognized my passion for literature and made the appropriate inference. I must intensify my efforts to enhance my writing skills. Ultimately, if I begin to write in the languages from my past, my parents may perceive it as insignificant markings on cherished possessions. While it is not a significant concern, there is a possibility that they may cease providing me with such gifts. A few days later, Mom started going back to the healing huts to teach waterbending again. She had stopped when she found out she was pregnant. Giving birth is hard on the body, but giving birth to a possible powerful waterbender takes a lot of energy and physical resources. Jun was just recently permitted to utilize her bending fully, once it was evident that everything had calmed down. Asuka, my nanny who has taken care of me since I was born, now spends more time with me. I have seen that my parents don't always sleep in our room. They leave after I go to sleep and leave Asuka behind. I guess someone is finally getting their sweet time together, heh. As soon as I started walking, slowly but surely, I saw new places I could explore. My universe grew from one room to a whole palace, with so much new and undiscovered for me. After breakfast every day, I went out to look around the palace. Before, I was affected by the nature of a lower spirit. Now, I'm affected by the body of a child. Fortunately, the latter is just transitory, and I want to make the most of my childhood. I've missed these simple, pure feelings of happiness in everything around me. I've gotten to know the Northern Tribe better. Father often takes me to his office and tells me what he knows about our way of life, our customs, and what a leader needs to know. I sometimes sit in the healing huts and watch as skilled healers fix damage that would take months to fix in the 21st century. Sometimes, I get to wander around the city, and my favorite part is when we pass by the place where the waterbending masters teach their students. That's when I discovered that I had only been using waterbending for one thing. It was useful to have a few guaranteed killer moves, but here I saw an entire art form that had been perfected over hundreds of years. The smooth, beautiful movements looked slow, but they weren't. The bender might change to a harsher, sharper style when it was necessary. Since humans were weaker than spirits, they didn't rely on overwhelming might but on being able to adapt to any opponent. Even at the show, I had never seen so many techniques. I learned all of this merely by watching regular students fight, not even masters. I can't even begin to conceive what monsters those who have mastered the element are like. A lifetime of learning, right? I also got to meet waterbending Master Paku, another character from the show. His hair is just starting to turn gray, but he is hard on his students. Just so you know, the show only had one Master Paku, but here there are many, even older people who fought in the war. If you saw those frail-looking old people from a distance, you would never think they could walk that quickly and easily. Even Paku couldn't keep up. Even other masters felt smaller when they were around. Maybe they were gone by the time the Avatar got there. After all, benders don't live much longer than normal humans. But while they're here, I'll keep watching them chastise other masters, even Paku, like they're new at it. I was able to ask for training, and I did get it. After observing a sparring match, I made dog eyes and pointed to the training benders and said, I want to be like them. They came up with basic stretches for me to do at my age. Most of the time, Mom just stretched my body, which made me more flexible and less likely to get in the way of future training. As they say, the devil is in the details. I'm not attempting to manipulate anyone right now. I'm just trying to subconsciously include some of my features so they don't stand out later. At the age of 2, I once again looked deep inside myself to see how I was feeling. Everything is going well. Half of my spirit has joined with my body, which means that by the time I am 4, I should be fully integrated. I started to think that Jun's round belly wasn't merely from eating too much. I slapped my forehead and remembered how my parents had casually brought up younger siblings. Mom, are we getting a new family member? I said, glancing at her swelling abdomen. Finally, someone noticed. You don't even pay attention to me and Dad, do you? She remarked with a mournful look on her face, but her sparkling eyes gave her away. Jun taunted, you're getting so smart, but you miss the obvious. I shouldn't claim that I thought of something else since I would get in trouble. I saw it last month but kept forgetting to ask, I continued, gently drinking my tea to make my remarks sound more genuine. Of course, I believe you, Jun responded, now thoroughly amused. Arnook and I have decided that you will name the baby. What do you think? I answered, I'm all for it, with a big smile, secretly thinking that the new baby would be a fantastic way to keep me busy when I want to go. After all, they probably won't let me go. I wondered why I looked 5 when I was 3 when I glanced in the mirror. It's your nature as a spirit, Naruto, was the only thing that sprang to mind. With long, silky hair whiter than the first snowfall, skin so pure it matched ancient cultivators, and delicate features even more feminine than Haku from the elemental kingdoms, I thought, it's a trap. Don't fall for the girly face. Where is my ruggedness? I cried to myself. There are some good things about it, like how Shotokan fans can see me. Too bad this isn't an Eki every day. If it were, I'd be the main character merely because of how I look. Oh well, letting out some steam helps. It's time to concentrate. The doctors say that Jun will have a baby today. I didn't want to stay locked up in my room, so I'm waiting near the room where the baby will be born. Since this morning, I've had a horrible sensation and don't know what to expect. I've been on edge all day, and Dad is too. He's even put up extra guards on the walls and sent more patrols out in the city. Dad can always ask the spirits for aid, even if things get tough. They didn't say no on the show, so they shouldn't say no here either. I sighed hard and determined not to worry until there was something to worry about. Dad came to get me and took me to the room where Jun was going to give birth. Even though only 2 hours had elapsed, the wait felt like it would never end. Dad came into the room an hour ago to help Jun when he heard her crying. I stayed here so I wouldn't get in the way of the healers. Around 9 o'clock, when the sun went down, work started and has been going on for 8 hours. My body is telling me to sleep because I haven't been awake for so long, yet the stress I've been feeling all day just gets worse as the birth goes on. Dad came to the door an hour later, looking 10 years older. It was hard to believe that he was so tired and damaged because I've never met anyone with a stronger will. I felt like time was passing away at that moment, knowing that the baby probably hadn't made it. Still, I ran inside the room. Dad tried to stop me, but I ducked beneath his arms and ran. When I got inside, everyone looked sad, and Jun was crying while holding the baby. I rushed to her and leaned forward the infant, holding on to a small hope that this little bundle was alive and that the noise was coming from somewhere else. But there was no air. I was about to give up when panic took me. Then I recalled that I wasn't human. I took a bit of my spirit, which was almost merged with my body, and mentally pushed it toward the baby, not knowing why, how, or what I was doing, just following my gut. I remember Jun's anxious face observing me the last time I saw it. Is he okay? Jun asked the healers for what felt like the umpteenth time, holding her son and newborn daughter in her arms. Yes, physically. The only problem we've found is that his Kai volume has gone down and his Kai system is tense, but that should go away in a month, the top healer said. We're not sure what your son did, but we think he may have shared his bending gift without meaning to. As a healer, You know that a bender's body is much stronger than a non-bender's. Your daughter will probably be a bender too. What a brave young man. Calling it a miracle would be an understatement, she said, nodding in agreement with the boy. The mother of the child knew her son was a hero, but only a few minutes earlier, when she saw him pass out, she was afraid she would lose him too. The healer opened the book where all the babies' names were written down and said, "What will you name the girl?" "Don't fill in the name yet. We promised Naruto he could name the baby himself," said the mother of two. "Okay, promises must be kept," the healer replied as he closed the book. She looked at Jun without waiting for an answer and saw her peaceful sleeping face. 88 years after the air nomads were killed. Tribe of Northern Water. The chief's training area. A lovely white-haired boy practiced smooth, graceful kai motions across the field in a big room made completely of ice. This room was usually used for the chief's training and his guards. As he moved, the water flowed through the air in time with his steps. A 3-year-old girl with sky-blue eyes observed him closely, following his every move. She even held her tiny hands out in front of her and automatically copied his movements, as if she were trying to remember them. The boy stopped after a few minutes, grinned, and looked at the girl. "Little princess, did you need something from me?" he inquired with a kind grin and loving gaze. "Big brother, you promised not to call me that anymore," she said, her cheeks getting redder. "Mom told me to call you for dinner. When are you going to start teaching me how to bend water? Just wait a little longer, and I'll start training you myself," he added, caressing her lovely white hair. "I'm not going to believe you this time." "Pinky swear," she said, putting her hands on her hips and trying to look serious, which just made her look cuter. "Of course," he said with a giggle, holding out his pinky for the oath. As soon as their pinkies touched, he picked up the laughing girl and raced to the kitchen, where her laughter echoed in the empty room. Naruto's point of view. The day following the birth, I woke up with horrible body aches, as if I had spent the whole day carrying bricks onto trains by myself. It lasted a whole month. I had to stay in bed for a month, and I was so bored that I wanted to scale the walls. My Kai system was completely out of whack at this time. I was too scared to even get close to it because I knew nothing nice was going on there. For that month, I lay in a separate healing chamber where my parents and waterbending healers came to see me every day. Every day felt like a play called Mother Hen Tending to Her Egg. You don't need to guess who played the role. My parents were genuinely worried about me, but they sometimes went too far in their worry. I had to talk my mom into leaving sometimes, but bringing up Yui always helped. There were good things about being stuck indoors, like having time to think about simple things. When you look at Yui's birth date and how old she was when the Avatar came, it's evident that the canon history is going as planned. It could just be a coincidence, but thus far everything I've seen says there haven't been any big changes. It was hard to think of a name, especially an East Asian one, when my head was full of Slavic and English names. I decided to preserve the name from the animation. Finally, after asking my parents, I found out what happened while I was waiting outside the room. Yui was born with feeble breathing, and the healers worked for half an hour to save her. My parents forgot about the spirits Tui and La, who could have assisted, because they thought waterbending would work. I'm glad things ended nicely, but coming to the human world made me too comfortable. I need to keep alert. This event was a clear reminder that life is full of surprises, both good and terrible. I noticed strange feelings one day while I was almost asleep. They were mild and hardly visible, but they were certainly not mine. They happened a lot and became clearer each time. You don't need to worry too much about it. First, the chief's palace was the heart of these feelings. Second, they were primal and changed a lot. Third, a part of me was going in the same direction. It was fun to feel Yui's feelings. I even learned how to send her mine, which often made her feel better when she was sad, and it did. I don't know why, but she felt closer to me than my parents did after a few days. I would have loved her otherwise, but the part of me that was still in her seemed to connect us on a spiritual level. After a month, I finally got to see Yui again. To be honest, I understood why I had been showered with love earlier. How could anyone not want to cuddle her with all that cuteness? My parents were jealous because Yui liked me so much. As soon as I got close enough for her to feel me, her little hands sought me and ignored everyone else. I was the only one who could guess what she wanted or make her feel better. It was beautiful to see their faces full of turmoil as they gave her to me. They never understood why, even though they cut back on work to spend more time with her. Now, about my bending. The outcomes weren't as horrible as I thought they would be. Yes, some of my Kai is missing, but you can see that it's coming back. The merger is on hold, but I'll be fine in 5 years, which means the whole merger will be delayed by only 1 year, which isn't a big deal. I was determined to get better in other areas, so I worked out harder and added additional strength exercises until I was too tired to do them. It wasn't fun, especially when Mom wouldn't let me heal and stop my hard workouts. She saw that her arguments were useless, so she gave in and started treating me again. I'm always amazed by this body. It recovers faster and has better parameters than my colleagues. But it was too awkward to try it out in petty fights. My parents tried to get me to make friends by bringing their friends' kids, but they changed their minds when they saw how relaxed my contemporaries looked compared to me. They thought I could handle grown-ups previously. There are no more books in the palace library, so I now read at the city library. You can't borrow books because knowledge is too important, and librarians would send even the chief's son away. I want to read all the novels by the time I'm 5, or at least most of them. I need to work on my thoughts and body because I can't actively bend yet. As soon as my bending starts, I'll put all of my energy into it. By the way, I now know how to butcher animals, figure out how old they are, and use their components to make healing potions, thanks to Dad's library. Earth Kingdom fortification literature taught me how to make ice houses that are comfy to live in. There is a whole shelf of war plans against the Fire Nation from prior chiefs, who frequently died to get that information. On the top shelf, there was a thin book about the plants that grow at the North Pole. I even liked reading about water, which was worse than some Chinese light novels, but it didn't matter because I was so hungry for information. There were books about everything. The city library isn't much better, but it does include a complete section on waterbending, with techniques, master's insights, and even scrolls on bloodbending and getting water from the environment. But those were simply ideas. The people who wrote them didn't live long enough to prove them, and other masters said their work was rubbish. Tradition rules here, although I imagine the southern tribe would like to know how many foes they could kill with those skills. In this sea of information, I uncovered another treasure. A book by the person who came up with the initial healing method. Who cares about theorizing for the uneducated? She might not have been the first. Healing huts are all about practice. If you fail, keep trying until you succeed. Theoretical foundations are not taken into account here. The master-to-student tradition is still the most important. The author was quite comprehensive, even criticizing the policies of the time and dubbing the chief and elders short-sighted, stubborn rams, which I agreed with. After going to Wan Shi Tong's library, she uncovered information about energy bending, made some conclusions about life energy, and then learned about Kai. She called the writers fools for not reading each other's work, and I completely agreed. They all talked about the same thing. Energy bending from the lion turtle era, life energy in the Avatar age, and Kai later on. Like prana, the healer adds a piece of their life energy to the person they're mending. The author's statistical analysis demonstrated that healers had a longer lifespan than even the most resilient benders. She thought that every time healers use up their life energy, they unknowingly make it denser and more conductive, which makes people healthier and live longer. Now I want to learn how to heal. Think about the possibilities. What if I change blood and use my Kai to repair it? Is it possible that this might make rejuvenation work better? In short, it's a way to help my loved ones live longer. I'm not going to leave this world until I'm bored. With my chakra system and my mixed spirit human nature, I should live a long time. As soon as Yui could talk and walk well, she became a little detective, following me around like a shadow whenever she had free time. I was more involved in raising her than her parents were, although she did listen to them, just not as much as she did to me. A lot of the time, you could find her sitting next to me at the library with a serious look on her face, trying to figure out what the books said but only being able to read a few words. She even managed to plead for training sessions in some way. It was hard to say no to her when she begged, so now we let her join our Kai training sessions and stretch her body. By the time I turned 5, I had read a lot of the municipal library, which was one of my goals. The other books were copies from the palace library. As this time went on, the people who came to the library often started to look at me funny. People here read slowly because they don't have a lot of formal schooling. I don't know how things are in other cultures, but here, parents teach their kids how to read and write, and that's all they need to live well. It doesn't matter how they do it. They thought I was just scrolling over pages and not reading. I didn't try to explain anything to anyone. As long as they didn't kick me out, it was great. I had to utilize the notebooks my dad bought me for my birthday to write down what I knew for Wan Shi Tong. Sadly, I recalled him, and now I had to consciously go through my memories to figure out which knowledge might be valuable in the bending world and which was remained unknown. I thought that if I wrote it as it was, the great owl wouldn't be too angry. What I wrote in my last world truly worked. My parents thought I was a once-in-a-century prodigy, especially after the delivery episode. People began to think that a good spirit had blessed me. Well, I blessed myself, heh heh. Because of this, they didn't keep a close eye on them. The most important rules were to always be on time for meals and keep safe. A few days before my 5th birthday, my mind and body were one. It happened while I was sleeping, yet I still recall every detail well. At first, I felt warm in my chest. I didn't think much of it and attempted to go back to sleep, but suddenly I felt electricity wash over every part of my body. It seemed like my cells were in ecstasy wherever it went. A happy moan came out of my mouth on its own. As soon as I got my bearings after all the feelings, I ran downstairs to check my energy. My 2 sources pulsed in time with my heartbeat, which was now free to flow, sending a lot of Kai into my body and out into the world. I couldn't discover my spirit, not even a hint, when I looked closer. There were no visible seams or borders between it and my body. Wan Shi Tong wrote about Qin in his notes. Qin once visited Wan Shi Tong's library in the human realm to pay off a debt with books. Wan Shi Tong said that Qin's spirit and body were so closely linked that you couldn't distinguish where one ended and the other began. Wan Shi Tong thought this was interesting. You could typically locate places where the body and soul met in both humans and avatars. But Qin was a single being, which meant that he could travel through the spirit world in his physical form without losing any of his powers. He already had power, strength, and money in the human world, therefore he didn't want to contact with the spirit world. We know that when the avatar goes to the spirit world, they leave their physical body behind and send merely a projection of themselves to the other level. People think that this is just the astral body of people. Iroh likewise didn't seem particularly real in the spirit world later on. Another advantage of adopting a hybrid approach. Impatient for the dawn, I promptly dressed and made my way to the nearest artificial pond to refine my waterbending skills. Some palace residents may have perceived my joyful laughter that evening, yet at that moment, nothing else held significance. As I moved water through the air, I experienced a profound sense of completeness, as though a long-lost element had been restored to me. My level remained unchanged. I was still classified as a low-tier spirit, on the verge of reaching mid-tier. I experienced no obstacles in achieving the mid-tier level. However, I chose to exercise patience based on my instincts. Ultimately, my body had only recently started to assimilate all my energy, and it required time to achieve stability. The following day, I impressed my parents with my proficiency in water control, securing formal approval to practice bending in my father's designated training area. Upon regaining composure and clarifying my thoughts, I conducted a thorough evaluation of my abilities. I found that mastering bending in the human realm presents greater challenges compared to the spirit world, primarily due to the reduced energy density in this environment. Furthermore, managing Kai proved to be more difficult. As an entity composed of energy, I governed bending through the entirety of my being. A physical body possesses channels for the flow of Kai, which imposes specific limitations. The association of benders with their elemental techniques and accompanying movements is not merely coincidental. These movements serve a purpose akin to hand seals in the elemental nations, functioning as essential supports. Experienced benders typically do not require them. My hybrid nature was also evident here. The channels that were solely filled with Kai yesterday have become larger and more robust today. In theory, this process would accelerate, and once the channels completely filled my body, I would transition into a more energy-based life form, something between a spirit and a human. The analogy that resonates with me is from Kurama. A tailed beast represents what I am meant to evolve into. At this time, I will focus on analyzing stances and movements to enhance my water control skills. The advantage was that the limitation imposed on low-tier spirits, a water control range of 1 to 2 meters, was removed. I am now able to manipulate all the water within my perception, provided I possess the necessary strength. At last, I was able to employ both long and mid-range techniques. The revival of bending brought forth the spirit's senses, a form of human intuition that enabled me to assess an opponent's strength within the spirit world. The primary purpose was to assist me in evading the notice of hostile high-tier spirits. Following extensive observations throughout the city, I developed a preliminary grading system for human strength, informed by the concept of spirit strength. Untrained teenage benders and beginners in bending possess the strength comparable to that of a low-tier spirit. Graduates and novice benders who had not yet attained mastery possessed the capabilities of a robust low-tier to moderately weak mid-tier spirit. Waterbending masters possessed the power of a formidable mid-tier to high-tier spirit. Remarkably, the individual with the highest energy density and quantity was the head of the healing chambers. The same elderly woman who assessed my condition during my childhood. At 140 years of age, she appeared remarkably vigorous, having surpassed the lifespans of 4 leaders. 2 grandfathers were present, classified as weak high-tier spirits, both of whom participated in the conflict against the Fire Nation. It is essential to clarify that my testing was limited to Kai reserves and density. The concept of human bending strength encompasses more than just that aspect. The strength of a bender is rooted in their experience, skill, and mental flexibility, followed by the quality and quantity of their energy. Otherwise, I would not have encountered masters possessing Kai reserves comparable to those of a weak mid-tier spirit. During the upcoming month, I successfully restored my waterbending control to its previous level and regained all of my signature techniques. It required an additional 3 months to achieve complete mastery over water within a 10-meter radius. Within that circle, basic water manipulation does not necessitate any physical movement. 4 months were dedicated to mastering the various states of water. Ice and steam now respond to my command equally. Numerous techniques have been incorporated, yet only a select few have been automated in their creation. The water needle is propelled from the mouth at a high velocity. To prepare for it, one should either hold saliva or consume water in advance. I also developed its counterpart, the ice needle, which produces the same effect upon impact. The octopus style generates water tendrils enveloping the body, enabling the practitioner to effectively defend against and engage adversaries. Utilize ice spears, arrows, swords, and daggers, whatever your creativity envisions, launch them towards your adversary. Ice boots or skates facilitate swift maneuverability across the battlefield. The water-ice vortex represents a powerful technique in the practice of waterbending. Following its use, I dedicated an additional week to restoring the training ground. I have also incorporated non-combat techniques into my skill set: water filtration, an air bubble for underwater breathing, and the ability to walk on water, primarily for its impressive visual effect. In the 4 months preceding my 6th birthday, I participated in contests with my mother, ultimately persuading her to engage without restraint. Mastering techniques is one aspect. Executing them seamlessly in the midst of a high-pressure fight is another challenge altogether. This year featured limited events. I was fully engaged in the practice of bending. Immediately following my 6th birthday, a competition with a student selected by the waterbending masters was arranged. In a bid to assert my capabilities, I intend to challenge one of the seasoned experts to a match following a straightforward victory. Let us observe their performance in singing. Recall the joy I experienced when my bending was activated. I promptly proceeded to the waterbending training ground, requesting that they provide me with personal training. I took a bold approach at that time, as I faced the decision of either inquiring directly or participating in a group with fellow students, which would have resulted in a slower pace of progress. Educators typically modify the tempo to align with the average proficiency of the group. Understanding that waterbending would be a more intuitive skill for me, I aim to utilize my time effectively, focusing on mastering combat waterbending while also allocating time for healing techniques. Despite showcasing my considerable potential, I was advised by certain individuals, citing adherence to training traditions and my perceived immaturity, to join a group alongside my peers. My body, demonstrating the tangible effects of hormones in a child's development, reacted in a way that illustrated its capacity to manage various situations. Ultimately, we reached an agreement. In 1 year, I will compete against the student they selected. Should I achieve victory, I would have the opportunity to seek guidance from any master on the training ground for lessons. If I were to experience a loss and still wished to gain insights from them, it would be strictly under their conditions. I significantly impacted their confidence at that moment. They had been training capable individuals in the art of proper bending for nearly 50 years, and then I arrived, the unconventional one. That is essentially how it was conveyed. In a moment of heightened emotion, I asserted my confidence by proclaiming loudly across the training ground that I would challenge even a master's abilities. The rumors circulated rapidly, and currently, neither party is willing to concede. Certainly, my assertions regarding defeating a master were met with skepticism, yet I stand by my statements. Unfulfilled promises, even those made impulsively, continue to resonate in individuals' subconscious minds. Your statements may hold diminished impact, as this is a reflection of human psychology. I am accustomed to honoring my commitments, except in situations that involve life and death. With just 1 week remaining until my fight, the entire city is aware of the event. Upon discovering the situation, Yui was filled with a strong sense of indignation, feeling compelled to confront the bullies who targeted her younger brother. Both parents approached the situation with a sense of composure, believing that their prematurely mature son was on the verge of facing the consequences of his actions. Rushing often leads to unprofessional outcomes. In approximately 1 year, by the age of 7, my body will be prepared to manage the full potential of progressing to mid-tier spirit level. Upon attaining that level, it will be necessary for me to engage with the moon and ocean spirits. I am uncertain about the differences that will arise when I transition to a mid-tier spirit in comparison to ancient spirits. However, I must admit that my primary goal is to postpone my encounter with them. Ancient spirits possess long-standing concerns, which can pose significant risks. Today, the entire city convened in the central square adjacent to the leader's palace, generating a significant buzz in the atmosphere. Each resident expressed a desire to convey their significant insights regarding the event. The audience gathered on a newly constructed ice tribune, eagerly observing the makeshift arena where the leader's son and a student selected by the masters were preparing to compete. Events that allowed for citywide participation were rare, and observing the skills of waterbenders in combat was consistently captivating. "I observed the selection made by the water masters," announced one of the most perceptive individuals in the stands, gesturing towards one side of the arena. "That is Gozu. It has come to my attention that his waterbending abilities are particularly formidable. One might argue that even a master would need to approach a confrontation with him with utmost seriousness," remarked a tanned man with rugged features, lost in contemplation. Indeed, the masters are showing no leniency towards the leader's son, despite his role in instigating this situation. "I sincerely hope he maintains his motivation following this setback," remarked an elder with a distinguished presence, reflecting a wealth of experience. As the crowd engaged in conversation about one of the opponents, Gozu confidently made his way to the center of the arena, adopting a heroic stance as though he were confronting not just a boy significantly younger than himself, but an entire fleet of the Fire Nation commanded by General Iroh. It has come to the attention of some that an individual has developed a notable affinity for public attention. The majority of those present were skeptical that a 6-year-old boy, who appeared to be closer to 9, could achieve victory. Individuals swiftly overlooked the commotion surrounding his arrival, the extraordinary act he executed for his sister's delivery, and the speculation regarding his waterbending abilities. It is challenging to place trust in unverified information without first-hand observation. At that moment, on the opposite side of the arena, a striking boy with white hair emerged, prompting a hush to fall over the audience. The townspeople leaned forward, eager to catch a glimpse of Naruto. This marked the first occasion for many to see the leader's son. Did the leader have 2 daughters? What is the reason for my observation of a young girl? An exceptionally loud boy shouted, disrupting the silence. Upon hearing this comment, the main character's eye twitched, or perhaps it merely appeared that way. Once the initial murmurs started, the audience became animated, creating a din that obscured any clear communication. Meanwhile, Naruto advanced toward his opponent with an expression of disinterest. The elder responsible for overseeing the fight entered the arena, observing that the participants were prepared. "Esteemed members of the tribe, I kindly request your attention for a moment," his resonant voice echoed throughout the arena. Upon completion, the audience started to settle. "Thank you for your attention. Today, 2 exceptional waterbenders will engage in a competition here, each representing their respective interests," he concluded ambiguously. "The guidelines are straightforward. Exclusively waterbending is permitted. The winner is the individual who maintains awareness. Severe injuries that pose a risk to life lead to an immediate forfeiture. Each party possesses the right to surrender. Participants are required to demonstrate respect towards their opponents and showcase their skills," the judge stated, advancing toward the center of the arena. "Do you comprehend the regulations?" the judge inquired of the waterbenders. Observing their coordinated nods, he proceeded, "Therefore, once the water sphere I launch detonates in the sky, you may commence." Once the judge concluded their remarks, Gozu opted to engage in conversation. "I would like to extend my apologies in advance for the outcome of our competition. The masters instructed me to conclude this matter swiftly. Apparently, you have managed to irritate them," Gozu remarked with a subtle smirk. "Rest assured, I will exercise caution. Perhaps it would be advisable to consider surrendering. Waterbending should not be treated lightly, you understand." Naruto crossed his arms, raised an eyebrow, and directed a disdainful glance at him, which pushed Gozu to his breaking point. "It seems you are not inclined to cooperate. Very well, just refrain from shedding tears afterward," he remarked with a hint of malice. Upon the explosion of the water sphere in the sky, time appeared to accelerate dramatically. Gozu had just commenced positioning himself for enhanced water manipulation when two ice needles swiftly passed by his face. One grazed his temple, resulting in a small bleeding line, while the other made contact with the edge of his neck. It was only at this moment that Gozu recognized he had been perilously close to death. If the needles had struck closer, he would have suffered significant blood loss. He was drenched in perspiration, his legs ceased to function, and he fell to the ground, sitting with a blank expression as he examined the areas where the needles had penetrated. The audience had little opportunity to comprehend the events before Gozu collapsed onto the arena floor. Their confusion was justifiable. The needles had been propelled at an astonishing velocity. Only skilled warriors and adept benders possessed the reflexes necessary to perceive the fleeting flash of light on the battlefield. The judge, positioned nearby, witnessed Naruto's attack and now looked on in astonishment at the boy who had performed such a precise strike, skillfully adjusting the needle's path. The water masters, positioned nearest to the stands, wore serious expressions, yet a few started to rejoice over the presence of such a gifted student who would surely be under their guidance. As the judge detailed the events that transpired, the audience in the stands turned their gaze toward the leader's son, their expressions a mix of astonishment and trepidation. It was one thing for benders to display their energy-intensive and flashy moves during a battle. It was quite another to execute subtle attacks that targeted an opponent's weak points with precision. The leader's family alone observed their son, their eyes filled with pride and steadfast belief. Individuals came forward to assist Gozu in getting up and exiting the arena. In a state of disbelief, he trailed behind them quietly. Naruto's triumph was clear, and it was something everyone recognized. Yet, as Naruto remained in the arena, arms crossed and an ice senbon rolling between his wide teeth, the crowd, uncertain of the situation, hesitated to disperse. "Let's go, man. Show those old masters what you've got," a youthful voice called out from the front row of the stands. Some were ready to reprimand the child for her apparent disrespect towards the esteemed water masters, but upon witnessing her kneeling before the leader's wife, Jun, they quickly feigned indifference to the situation. As the leader's daughter, her biting remarks were often overlooked. Her youth worked to her advantage, and it was simply unwise to offend the daughter of a waterbender from the healing huts, who provided care for everyone. "A year ago, I vowed to confront and overcome a water master," a clear, melodic voice echoed from the center of the arena. Naruto, having remained motionless, offered a slight bow to the masters and proclaimed, "I challenge Water Master Izamu to a duel." The audience, captivated by his speech, burst into a flurry of discussions the moment he concluded. "Try to be a bit more humble, young man. Your talent is undeniable, and it's clear that you've already come out on top in our little wager. Don't try to take on more than you can handle," remarked Water Master Izamu, who was neither the most powerful nor the weakest among them. "I stand by what I've said. Let our bending speak for us," Naruto said with a calm demeanor. "I believe it's time for a little lesson," Izamu declared, entering the arena, to demonstrate what truly earns us the title of master. The judge cast a discreet look at the leader, silently inquiring, "Is everything okay?" Noticing Arnuk's subtle nod, he continued in his capacity as judge. With no reason to continue the discussion, both benders assumed their positions. The judge brushed the sweat from his forehead with his sleeve, sent a water sphere soaring into the air, and moved away from the center, wary of being caught in the chaos. In an instant, the water erupted above the benders, and Izamu enveloped himself in a swirling vortex, creating a formidable barrier that shielded him from all incoming assaults. This was accomplished right on schedule. Just as the master was completely protected, 2 water needles and 1 ice needle hit the barrier. They found themselves unable to break through, becoming stuck instead. With no more need to hold back, the master ascended to the peak of the vortex, deftly maneuvering his feet, and started launching tightly packed water blobs towards the leader's son. Naruto, appearing to conserve his energy, fashioned ice skates on his feet and gracefully glided around the arena, evading Izamu's strikes while quietly channeling his energy into the frosty ground beneath him. While dodging the growing barrage of strikes from all 4 of the master's limbs, Naruto completed the infusion of the ice. With a swift movement, he turned it into steam, surrounding the entire arena for a few moments. Caught off guard by the abrupt shift, the master remained calm, retreating to the heart of the vortex. As the steam dissipated, an astonishing scene unfolded. More than 100 icy weapons floated ominously, their points directed at Izamu. The water master's expression shifted to one of pale shock. Had the assault not been so overwhelming, he could have had a fighting chance. However, with all the weapons converging on him at once, no defense would withstand the onslaught. Reflecting on the earlier needles, he found himself in awe of the significant energy that those tiny strikes had drained. Naruto's element appeared to have a greater density than his own. In straightforward terms, every needle, infused with an alien force, seemed like a direct assault from Izamu, demanding both time and considerable effort to counteract. Realizing that there was no benefit in continuing to fight, Izamu let go of his hold on the water. "I give up," his voice resonated throughout the arena. With a thoughtful gaze directed at Naruto, he spoke earnestly, "Our water tribe can take pride in having such a formidable waterbender in our midst. I'm confident that your name will become widely recognized by everyone eventually. As a master, I wholeheartedly endorse your recognition as a master." Arnuk and Jun exchanged glances, their expressions revealing a mix of concern and understanding as they considered their son's future, aware that the water tribe's confines might stifle his growth in the long run. Still, with this understanding, they wished for the moment of parting to arrive as late as it could. Yui, who had been restless during the fight, finally reached her breaking point. She dashed over to her dear brother, playfully sticking her tongue out at the masters sitting close by. Arnuk could only manage a sheepish grin in their direction. Naruto, with a bright smile, lifted his cheerful sister and made his way toward the masters. In a united group, there's no space for hostility or lingering resentments. May today's duel signify the start of a fresh chapter. I'd be happy to share my experiences with you, Naruto said in a relaxed manner. This kid is truly unique. A year ago, he was enthusiastic about gaining knowledge. Now he's sharing his own insights in return. In a few years, you'll be gaining knowledge from him, right? An elder, wise and revered, shared a light-hearted laugh. You've truly deserved this. We look forward to having you join us, he said, and all the masters nodded in agreement. After many years, they had come to terms with their errors and found ways to meet in the middle. In a delightful turn of events, the encounter between the 6-year-old son of the leader and the group of masters came to a close. The event captured everyone's attention for a whole month, spreading its buzz all the way to the most remote tribes of the North Pole. The individuals, who had been stuck in a rut, appeared to shake off their built-up burdens with this occurrence. The tribe recognized the strength in Naruto, envisioning him as a future leader who would guide them toward prosperity. The elders reminisced about the days before the war, when the capital thrived with activity, the ports were always teeming with incoming ships, and the market stalls overflowed with treasures from every corner of the globe. Thus commenced the tale of the Master of the Elements. Stay tuned for more. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this video. I'm thrilled you watched the video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like and subscribe for even more exciting content coming your way soon.